Hey guys, it's your boy, Ballface8020, back again with another great commentary slash response video. So this ended up being not as interesting as I thought it would be, but Casey's got a new girlfriend, and he, put her on video today for the first time. It's clear that they're in the early stage. I don't know. I don't know if you call it the talking stage or what. I don't think that they're formally together yet, but they're clearly getting there. She seems really nice. They have great rapport. I know we're still in that honeymoon stage, so we don't know. But I mean, just from the vibe I get from both of them, much better than what Casey had with Brittany. And I know that Casey's grown up a little now, but they just seem so comfortable together. And I'm really rooting for them, and I'm rooting for Casey. And Casey's video where he talked about the breakup with Brittany did really raise my respect for him, like, a lot. Because like I said, it showed that there really is a person like underneath there. It's not just all red plate. There's a person underneath all the red pill garbage. Like, I thought he was just like this kind of automaton, and I know he comes off that way, but there really is more to it than that. Like, is Casey interesting? No. Is he likable? No. Does he have any good advice? No. Is he a snake oil salesman? Yes. But he doesn't know it's snake oil. And which is why I never really yeah, sometimes he would piss me off, but I never hated Casey. I always wanted him to, get out of this nonsense and do well. I hate some of the things he did. Like, I hate that he brought Cole into all this. And and then I hated the way that I thought he's the one that fucked up the relationship with Brittany. And I'm sure that his red pill nonsense contributed, but like I said, I really think she would have left him anyway. I think without all the red pill stuff, I still think she would have left him. I think she just outgrew him. She was when she first met and they were dating, they were both in their early 20s, and as she matured, she realized this guy is a fucking moron. Red pill or no red pill, he's still an idiot. And so they just ended. I mean, the vibe just was never there. It was even when they were young. At least, I mean, for what I've seen in their videos. So yeah, but anyway, this new girl seems like a great match. I do have one kind of funny, I think it's funny, anecdote about the whole Casey situation. My brother knows who Casey is from, because I've shown him videos I've done responding to Casey, but he doesn't like follow Casey regularly or anything. He knows, like, but sometimes I'll say to my brother, like, Casey said this or Casey said that, and he'll know who I'm talking about. And so after I saw the video about where Casey explains the breakup with Brittany, I sent a text to my brother saying, Casey released a video saying that, after, Brittany, I mean, I didn't say after Brittany, I said after his girl, because he wouldn't have known who Brittany was. I said after his girlfriend left him, he had a period of a year where he couldn't eat, to the point where he lost 15 pounds. He would just randomly start smelling her perfume. She'd be the first thing that he thought of when he woke up in the morning, and the last thing he thought about when he went to bed at night. And then at night he'd dream of her, and then he'd close her eyes and see her there. Like during the day even. I was like, when Carolyn dumped you, is that how you reacted? And then so this was all via text. So my brother texted back to me. He said, "What a fucking loser." And then the next text he said, "And yes." And the difference is, my brother said there were two main differences. He said one is, for him, it only lasted 9 months, not a year. And two is, he said he didn't recall losing any weight. He said if anything, he might have put a little weight on. He said his appetite wasn't affected. And so I guess everybody's a little different. Anyway, this new girl is much better. Seems like a much better fit. So really rooting for them. She also appears to be from the Midwest. She's definitely got the Midwest physiognomy, Physiomi. I don't know. I fuck it. I don't know how to say it. Um, Physiomi. She's got the Midwest physiomi, but it seems nice and laid back from the video. She's a nurse for a living, which I think is a good occupation for somebody who's going to be with Casey, because Casey was meant to be some kind of like mid-level real estate guy, or probably not an engineer, because Casey sounds like he's really bad at math and is just incapable of working under somebody else. But yeah, I think like a more like a wife who's maybe a little bit more blue collarish, than like on more on the blue collar side, I think is a better fit for Casey. So anyway, they made this video. It was, stupid but not totally worthless, about hidden secret turnoffs, like stuff like that. But once you get past all this stuff, some of it's, it's not like earth shattering or anything, but it's like, I guess, it's on stuff that, like, it's unfortunate that people would have to be told this stuff, but it's there. Also, it's different because, like a lot of the stuff that, like when Casey would have, those two JBW girls who he had on talking, that in those past videos I did response to, and then when he had his sister doing, that was all stuff for like young women, like really young women, like late teens to early 20s. And I guess that's not really what Casey's dating anymore, is, he's getting older himself. I think it's interesting to see the like dating preferences or thoughts from women who are a little older and are looking to settle down. So she had this list of turnoffs, and here is but I don't think she got through all of them. Like she just, Casey, I get Casey was getting bored or something, so he was doing his interrupting thing. Although he wasn't not as like obnoxiously as he used to do it to Brittany. And really, you see that Casey just looks so happy in this video. He's like the happiest I've ever seen him, and it really is good to see. But anyway, before she even gets into the list, she says that, she feels like men today don't provide. That she comes from a Midwestern background where the men are like make a bigger deal like about providing, or she said at least it was in the past. Like, that was certainly what my dad was like with my mom. Maybe it's a generational thing. I think it's probably partially generational, partly regional. Because now, if you haven't been following the Casey saga, Casey's now somewhere in Arizona, but he's from North Dakota. I don't think this girl's from North Dakota. She's probably from Michigan or something. And yeah, I don't think that. I think it's easy to misunderstand this whole thing and read too much into it. I don't think that most women in the West are really looking for a man who will provide, per se. I think that they want a man who can provide. I think it's part of the attraction and respect. Like, it's they like a guy could be maybe a really nice guy and really physically attractive, and they may be happy to sleep with a guy like that, but for a long-term relationship there might not be enough respect there to sustain it. They want a guy who, and this is even if she's somebody who like works and can pay her own bills, she's like instinctively like, do I want like a NEET as the father of my children? Do I want to spend my life with a NEET? Can I maintain respect for a NEET? Probably not. So they want to see, like, it's not so much that seeing a guy get up and go to work every day to do something he hates to provide for his kids. I don't think that turns any women on, but I think that they respect it and they want a guy who can do that if he has to. And which makes sense. So I think that's kind of what she was trying to say. I don't think she was saying that she wanted bling or anything like that. She seemed like somebody who has very simple taste. So yeah, but don't think it's like anything else. Like do not being able to provide, like giving off non-provider energy, not being able to provide or not giving off provider energy, that is going to make you less attractive to women, but it's not relevant unless you pass the looks threshold and really even the personality threshold. And it also depends on, what stage of life you're at, what the woman's, what the woman's looking for. I think that provider energy is much more important to a woman in her mid-20s and later. than in her late teens or early 20s. And which is so like, which is one of the many problems with like Casey when he's talking about attracting women and stuff like that. Like, well, there different things are going to be attractive to women in different age groups and different, economic stratas even, you know. So but I do think that, yeah, as women get older, they are more. It is more something that they look for is a guy who can provide. Not that, and again, it's not something like it's not really about the money, okay? Because let's say he's like some trust fund baby, so he's got the money to provide. That's not what they mean, okay? They don't mean the money. They mean more like you took this guy's bank account, you like erased his bank account. Can this guy go out and provide for me and the kids? Like, yes, I mean, I'll be providing too. I don't need a man to do this. I'm not saying that, but like, do I want to raise a family with a guy who can't do that if it gets called to? And it's not even like an explicit intellectual thing. It's an instinctive attraction, respect thing. So yeah, I think that's a real thing. I'm not trying to say that if you go out, if you have provider energy, that you're suddenly going to be, attractive to women. There's still the look threshold. There's still the personality threshold. There's still, like, to an extent, the age matching, and then there's still but that provider energy. I mean, there are a lot of women, okay, who are in relationships with guys who they're not physically attracted to, and they maybe don't even have an emotional spark with, but they're good providers and they really do like and respect that. And, so like a lot of, they get to their mid 20s and late 20s, they're not looking for the drama anymore. They're not looking for the fairy tale passionate relationship. They're looking for somebody who they can build a good life with. There, it's not like about love. So it will raise your SMV if you can be that provider. It may not be what you want, which is fine. But it's a real thing. So I mean, you can call it beta bucks if you want, but that's at best an oversimplification because it's not about the money. Anyway, so anyway, at least it's not just about the money. There may be a financial aspect there, but it's not just about the money. So anyway, she proceeds to give a list of 6 turnoffs. I don't think any of these are too unsurprising or groundbreaking, but we'll talk about them. She said lack of emotional intelligence. Like, well, yeah, but you say that, yet you're with Casey, so it can't be that much of a deal breaker. Then she said something interesting. She said, like, if it's a guy who you really care about and, you're having, like, an intimate conversation and he gets sad and cries in front of you, she's like, I think that's hot. I'm assuming that that's just Zoomer speak, calling it hot. I doubt that any women would find that. I mean, well, that's not true. There are definitely some women who are into that, but most women, I don't think they're going to find it a turn on per se, but they won't find it a turn off. And again, it's about like love and respect, and like it shows like it's easier for a woman to respect a guy who does have that emotional availability and commitment and stuff, as opposed to some guy who's just totally, icy and detached, which can be, that icy detached thing can be attractive maybe at first, especially when a woman's younger, but you don't want a lifelong relationship with somebody who's icy and attached. Like, yes, sure, that might give you feels in the short term, but in the long term, that's not necessarily what you're looking for. So I guess that's what she's saying, and absolutely, again, you can talk about alpha seed, beta need, all you want, but what I'm trying to say is that a guy who's not able to show emotions like that, like to just show that emotional connection and emotional investment, and be vulnerable and stuff, that's the kind of thing that over time will cause her to lose attraction for you, because that, like, is it important for initial attraction, being emotionally vulnerable? Probably not. Is it important for maintaining attraction over the course of a relationship? Yes, absolutely. And that's, black pill orthodox and red pillars don't understand that. Then she says guys who are too into their social media, like, like taking like selfies of themselves on social media. Yeah, I agree. That's pretty cringe. I don't know how common that is, but that's fucking pathetic. And it gets back into the whole like respect thing. For the most part, women women aren't like men. Like we don't need to respect a woman to be attracted to her. She just has to look good. And the women aren't really like that. They really, I mean, again, there are maybe some exceptions, but women, like if she'll respect you more if you're physically attractive. But if she gets to know you, and if she sees more of you, sees through like past the looks, sees the real you underneath. If she doesn't respect that real you that she sees, then she's going to lose attraction for you, with some tiny exceptions. But for the most part, she's going to lose attraction for you. And it happens all the time. I mean, like you need to go read like what women say. Like what causes men to lose attraction for women? Like the woman starts to look worse. She's either gets old or gets fat or gets disfigured or something like that. That's what causes a man to lose attraction for a woman. And what causes a woman to lose attraction for a man? Yes, getting old and fat or disfigured. Of course, that would cause a woman to lose attraction for a man. Of course, that would. But also just him behaving in a way that she doesn't respect, or him just losing respect for her. That will cause her to lose attraction to the guy. The next thing she says is invites you back to his house on the first date. Yeah, that's I think it depends on what stage of life she's in, and what stage of life she's in, and just how she feels about that. I would imagine that for most Zoomer girls, 18, 19, 20, 21, that they wouldn't really be offended by that. I mean, especially if it was off something like a Hinge date or a Bumble date or a Tinder date. Like, it depends on, I think that especially when they're young, they're cooler with it. Now, a woman in her mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s, beyond, yeah, I think that a lot of them, it would be a turnoff. Because because that's the kind of thing, I'm not saying you have to wait like 6 months before the first time, but like, it's something that, like, they don't, like, a lot of, like, as women especially, maybe to a much lesser extent with men, but women especially, even if they're not like this when they're young, as they get older, it's not something that they really want without the, without the commitment there first, without the romantic connection first. It doesn't have to necessarily be like a permanent, lifelong connection, but it means that this is somebody who you really do enjoy spending time with, and you hang out together and stuff. And then, like, after that, after there's been that connection, then it can get physical. And for a guy to like offer you to come back, or try to I don't know, make you want to come back on that first date, or to try to do it really early. I mean, I think that would be a turnoff to a woman who's looking for something more serious. If she's not, then it's not going to be a big deal. But if she's a woman who's already in the stage where she's like, look, I'm not dating. I'm looking for a guy to settle down with, and then that guy invites her back on the first date. Yeah, of course, I think that would be a turnoff for most women. So I think, yeah, that makes sense. But it depends on what stage of life you're in, what stage of life she's in, and it depends on the woman, obviously, in the individual woman in question. Then she said the next turnoff, love bombing, saying like, I want to put a baby in you, I love you, and stuff like that. And she's just like, dude, like, slow down. We're too early for all this shit. Yeah, I would say I would say to stay away from that stuff, especially in the early stages. I would imagine that is A, scary, B, annoying, and C, just really confusing. So I don't know. And Casey even said this. He said, like, these are things that, like, I didn't know that guys did this stuff commonly. So I mean, if this stuff is happening frequently, that's, I didn't know guys were doing stuff like that. But yeah, so I don't know how common it is either. But yeah, so I think that one makes sense. So you see, these are all actually pretty practical things. I mean, are they going to get you laid knowing these things? Probably not. But but that's not her problem. That's Casey's bullshit marketing of saying these are seduction secrets or whatever. Back on the social media thing, follows a lot of women on social media who then you go and you see that those women don't follow him back. Well, I mean, yes, I know that women do have a problem with this because I've heard about it, but other than it just being that the guy that it's tacky, I don't really see what the big deal is. Like, look, if you're in a dating stage with a woman, don't do that. Don't follow a lot of women who don't follow you back, because women really, that gives women the ick. I don't know why, but I mean, it's not like it doesn't make sense. I just don't understand why it's a big deal. Like, I agree, it's tacky, but it's also kind of like, so what? Um, so yeah, I would avoid that. So, I mean, that seems like good advice. Um, and then she says flexing money you don't have. Like, if you're at it, like, if you're making like kind of like a mid-income thing, and you're at the club getting bottle service and stuff to try to impress women. She's like, that doesn't impress women at all. It just makes you look like an idiot. We know that you don't. We know that you can't afford it. And yeah, sure, we'll take a drink, but just we're out having fun. But that's it. That's all it is for you. It just makes you look like a try hard and a sucker. Yeah. So I mean, don't do that. I think that like a lot of times when you have this, like, any good advice in the red pillow sphere, it's going to be good advice about stuff to not do. There's very few things you can do. Like I said, if you're not attractive, if you're you've got a bad personality, not as in you're a bad guy, but you've got a personality that just isn't attractive to women. Like, there really isn't anything you can do. There's no secrets. You might find a woman who's attracted to you, but there's nothing really you can do if you don't have anything going for you in either looks, personality, or status to actually attract women. However, there's always stuff you can do to repel women. So any good advice on this front is always going to be about avoiding the ways that you repel women, not about actually like telling you ways to attract women, because there's not much you can do. Then they go into like a bit of a conversation about, oh, right, the part that Casey was most interested in is, he said, do you think that women enjoy having to compete for a man? They have to be like having a guy who a lot of other girls are also want to be with. And she said, yeah, unfortunately. And I think that what she meant to say was that, like, I don't think that there's any woman who wants to compete for a man. Okay, I mean, there's women who are into some weird shit. I don't think there's any woman in the world who wants to compete for a man, enjoys competing for a man. I think that a lot of women, especially in the earlier parts of the relationship, want a man who other men, I mean, maybe them too, but other women want to be with, or other women are jealous of. But they don't actually want it to have to be like that she herself has to worry about him going off with one of these other women. That's not going to be. Some relationships, especially when they're young, maybe a turn off, but for the most part, no. I mean, I think that they want a guy who other women want, who other women are going to be jealous of them for having, but that's as far as it goes. And I think that it gets much less important, to the point of having no importance whatsoever, the longer the relationship goes. By the time she's been with you for 15, 20 years, let alone 30, 50 years, she doesn't give a shit if other women are attracted to you or not. Like I said, because you kind of like, over time, you sort of fuse into one person. And like, if other women could be totally into you, other women could not even realize you exist, she's not gonna care at that point. Okay. But in the earlier stages, yeah, I think it matters. Like, even even in like, certainly when you first start, but in those like first 5, 10, 15 years. After that, maybe not so much. But even then, I would say it really was more like, probably like time getting into the 50s, you stop caring about that shit. Yeah, and then the last thing she said is, like, when Casey asked, like, what advice would you have given to yourself when you were in your early 20s? And she just said, like, well, I just said to start looking for somebody serious and long-term then, as opposed to, like, fucking around and not taking stuff seriously. It's like, yeah, well, it's easy for you to give yourself that advice. It would be easy for you now to give yourself that advice, but the fact is that isn't where you were back then mentally. Like, so like yes, maybe that would have been the more logical like pursuit, like if you knew that down the road you did want a long-term commitment, to not waste time, with casual stuff, and to just be focused only on the serious stuff even from a relatively young age. It's like, right, but you're saying that now as somebody who's no longer interested in the casual stuff. When you were young, that stuff still interested you. So, like, I would give the same advice to somebody to stay away from that stuff. But I also think it's like, it's not that easy. Because, the thing is, like, you have to keep it, like, in mind, like, where, like, when you're going to give advice, it can be good advice, but it might not really be applicable to where that person is in life at that time. That's all for now. See you in the next.